let's hear from one of our contributors who spoke to me a little earlier from Gaza, from Jerusalem. He was able to give us some of the perspective from the strategic aims that the Israelis are trying to pull off in their invasion. Professor Efraim Inbar, president of the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, and I asked him how they could potentially go into combat Hamas without harming a huge number of civilians.
The correct definition is to dismantle the Hamas military capabilities in order to prevent them to harm further Israelis.
Yoav Gallant, the defence minister, said that he would wanted to wipe Hamas off the face of the earth. So that is a direct quote from Israel.
Well, I think it's figurative rather than operational. Hamas, unfortunately, is an idea. It's an ideology, a murderous ideology that wants to destroy the Jewish state, which is unfortunately quite popular among the Palestinians. I didn't hear any Palestinians that are objecting or censoring or criticizing the Hamas horrific acts against civilians in Israel.
Well, to add balance to that, there definitely have been Palestinians in this country and elsewhere who have condemned the attacks by Hamas. But just to return to my original point, how can it possibly be done in such a densely populated area like the Gaza Strip when airstrikes continue to pound it and a ground invasion is imminent? How can it be possible to continue with the war aims of the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, without a huge number of civilian casualties?
I think everybody knows that we warned the Gazans to move south of Gaza City precisely in order to minimize civilian casualties. This is going to be an area, a zone of war, and we told civilians to move away. In contrast, Hamas continues to launch missiles toward Israeli civilian towns.
They've been told to head south, the people of Gaza, people of northern Gaza, although there's essentially nowhere to go there and no way out because the border crossing remains closed. So the humanitarian organisations are deeply worried about what will happen to them. Do you feel like Israel have perhaps calculated, the Israeli Defence Forces have calculated that they've been given more scope or more authority to act by the United States and their unequivocal support?
I think, first of all, it's wrong to assume that there is no empty spaces in Gaza. Anybody that looks at a Google map will see that there are areas in which agricultural lands, there are orange groves in Gaza. So not all Gaza is an urban area. So there are many places where Gazans can flee from the war.
Okay, I take your point, but it's an area roughly the size of the Isle of Wight, some 25 miles long, and there's 2.3 million people who live there.
This is true, and it is a pity that Hamas didn't take it into consideration when it went to war on Israel. I don't think we have to defend our people. The fire on Israel continues. The only way is to put an end to the launching of the missiles, to go inside. You can't do everything from air. Therefore, Israeli forces have to go into Gaza to look for those missile launchers and destroy them. It is appalling, actually, that Hamas is using the civilians as human shields in violation of the international law. I think Israel, its first duty is to take care of its own civilians rather than the civilians in enemy territory.
Sure, and many international countries have, including the UK, have said on numerous occasions that Israel has the right to defend its own people. on your point that Hamas is merely an ideology, is it possible to completely wipe Hamas out? Because even if you find all of their fighters and all of their rocket sites, is this kind of action, this kind of widespread bombing campaign and ground incursion, is this kind of action not the sort of move that will further engender people to join terror groups like Hamas? This may create a new generation of terrorists.
Well, first of all, I agree that this ideology is continuing and will stay even after we dismantle the Hamas military capabilities. And this is, of course, the tragedy of the situation, that the Palestinians will continue to be addicted to this murderous ideology. And unfortunately, Israel can do very little in order to change their education system, in order to change the venom coming out of the Palestinian media. This is our life, and we have basically to take care of their capabilities to harm us.
Well, that was Professor Efraim Inbar, President of the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security.